All right, we're currently waiting for Tristan to join us. I've just sent him a notification. Thank you for joining, and this is the Positivity Podcast with Michael Wynter. Tristan looks like he's in now, so let's go ahead and let him in. Yeah, he's here. I think he's here. Tristan. Here's Tristan. Here's Tristan. Okay. Tristan, what's going on, brother?
I'm good.
All right. So this is the Positivity Market Podcast with your host, Michael Wynter. On today's show, we're discussing what's happening in our communities with our young people. Today's guest, Tristan Graham, ended his recent interview on iNeverKnew TV saying, "There's still hope." He delivers a powerful new book that faithfully stamps a history of chattel slavery and its consequences. His hope in the diaspora's ability to organize and mobilize economically around the family structure and the business it must conduct is a pivotal critique on the contextual effects of an ever-growing resource capture on the continent of Africa from Western powers. In his thorough three-part interview, he describes how Blacks in the Americas have traversed white supremacist systems that has created psychological and sociological dysfunctions among Africans globally. We've been working overtime, and you have the opportunity to learn from some of the biggest trainers, coaches, consultants, and speakers because they'll share with us what they've learned, what's helped them transform their life financially, professionally, and emotionally. Stay with us until the end because you have the chance to earn some of our biggest prizes. If you subscribe to our channel and tell us what was your aha moment in the show, you have a chance to win the Amazon card of $75. All you have to do is click the link in the description. This is for YouTube folks, and tell us what your aha moment is, and you have a chance to participate and win the Amazon card. Now, today, Tristan and I, Michael Wynter, I'm a consultant for business owners, as well as the founder of Positivity Marketing Entrepreneurial Apprenticeship, that trains those already in business as well as those aspiring to register to operate one. We'll tackle all of this when we get going. Thank you for being with us. Stay with us until the end because there's a lot of lessons you can learn from Tristan. He's very bright. We've actually had the chance to talk a couple of times, and he always laughs whenever I say stuff like that. He's humble, but he's got a lot of good information that folks should know, and that should empower us to more confident group economics and family structure and just a whole bunch of good stuff. Tristan, let's start with your background. Where were you born?
I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, 2001. It's kind of relatively young for for someone like you.
You make me feel very seasoned. You make me feel seasoned, so I appreciate that. You grew up with mom, dad, both?
Yeah, I grew up with both my parents, mom, dad, and a lot of family members. So I've always had family around, cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, and my sister as well.
Okay. And where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Kingston College from grade 7 to 11, and I transferred in grades 12 and 13 to St. George's College. It's right across the road.
Okay, so you weren't going to an exceptional private school or anything like that. You got a
No.
You got a regular public
Public
education.
yeah.
Okay. So what we're about to hear, this dynamism that you're about to present to us, is of your own volition?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get started, I know that aside from the book, which we'll talk about in detail, that you have a bunch of articles that you've written on Medium. Tell folks about that real quick.
On Medium, I have a series of articles in relation to certain topics that are kind of understudied or have been clearly misinterpreted. For example, I have an article on neocolonialism and imperialism in Africa, black feminism versus Africana womanism. I have one titled the 21st Century Miscegenation Campaign, where I speak about the interracial and mixing of races that has been marketed to black people as a means of liberation or some sort of progress.
Don't give us too much. Don't give us too much because remember we're gonna talk about some of this stuff. Go. Okay. All right. So okay, and you're going to UE right now, right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, and major, minor, what's going on with that?
My major in political science and minor in philosophy. I also have a few certificates, online certificates. It's nothing serious from Yale and Duke in regards to public health and also in philosophy.
Okay, so for the folks who don't know, the two schools that Tristan just mentioned aren't they aren't just any school, right? Yale is one of the top school is perennially the best school in the world, and Duke is pretty close to it. So Tristan, go on, keep doing your thing. All right, so you have a great recent interview on Never Knew TV. The details of your book. What's the title?
The Thoughts of an Unchained Mind. I initially, one of my resolutions for this year was actually write a book. What the book entails is really what I've been studying over the past 2 or 3 years and where I am in my consciousness currently. I started putting the book together in January, and ever since I started putting the book together, even stuff that I didn't even remember that I knew, I began writing down and like, whoa, okay, I really know this. And I just expand and expound and explain to people current situations that are in the world, as well as what has happened in the past and what caused us to be here now. And also, I address misinterpretations of our own history and who we are as African people.
Okay. And where can the book be found?
You can find the book on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. And if you're in Jamaica, you can just DM me at Tristan BC4L to get a local copy.
Okay. And for others who write, where did you go to publish the book?
I was a book publishing agency in Michigan as well as Amazon.
Okay.
So,
So you've gotten a couple of different sources for that. Yeah. All right. Well, people have been talking, and we'll discuss all of what Tristan just mentioned and so much more. Remember, subscribe, select alert. If you're watching us on Instagram, so please follow. And again, thank you for tuning in. Have you seen this Up From Slavery documentary that is now kind of circulating? It's actually been out for a while. The details like the transatlantic slave trade from I guess you could call it its inception, and then it has some pictorials and stuff like that. Have you seen that before?
I've seen glimpses.
Okay. What did you think about that?
I take any attempt by a racist system to explain racism as kind of a farce. So I didn't really take it too seriously.
Okay. The details, the framework that I'm going to kind of run from runs along those lines. I know that a lot of details have been omitted or were omitted from that program, right? And we can go into the Songhai stuff. I know we're going to go into that. I absolutely love that. The shirt is now currently up on the site, so folks can check it out at conscious-apparel.com. But it's just important to kind of figure out where this thing started, where it brought us, right, sociologically and economically, and then like where do you see things going, right? So for me, someone who had to read about a lot of this in like my political science class, the program provided vivid imagery about stark similarities. Things haven't changed. And what I'd like to talk about is what does your research tell you about the major players? Who currently stands to gain from the Western economic structure?
The Western economic structure is contingent on the exploitation of Africa and the global South.
Okay.
But more importantly, or more so, Africa.
Okay.
All of the resources that we use here currently in the West comes from Africa.
Okay.
Mines, the plantations that are even still currently in Africa are the breadbasket of the Western economy.
Okay.
For example, the chocolate that we eat, it comes from the cocoa plantations in Africa.
Cote d'Ivoire.
Exactly. And even up to the other day, there was a lawsuit that was filed against Nestle for child slavery.
Yeah.
And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that there was no basis for the charge to be brought against Nestle, the company.
Yeah, they have similar suits against Cargill. But go ahead. Yeah.
So even in the most obvious cases, the exploitation of Africa is just brushed off the shoulder of the Western economy.
Okay.
Also, if you look at the cobalt mines and the coltan mines that make our phones and our laptops and our refrigerators and our aluminum and all of those stuff,
right.
There are people who are dying daily in mines that mine our own goods for us that are literally starving to death.
Okay.
And the money that they're earning from those mines can't even sustain us in the Western Hemisphere for a day. So imagine what they have to go through where they are.
Okay. So as far as these lawsuits are concerned, and we'll talk about some sort of recompense in a subsequent segment, right? We'll talk about what CARICOM is doing and all of that stuff. But is there a way to look at this objectively and to come out with a responsible resolution? I know I'm going off script a little bit, but I want to hear your opinion about this.
For me,
yeah,
I am on the side of the oppressed and the downtrodden African people.
Okay.
So for me, there is no objective solution unless it's for them. Which would totally counter the idea of objectivism, where I'm subjectively on the side of the oppressed. I'm not on the side of a billionaire who, he's afraid he's going to lose $1 billion because Africa is free. I am on the side of the people who are starving and hungry.
Right.
I really care what the rich or the billionaires have to say about that. I am on their side, meaning the poor and the downtrodden.
Okay. So does that mean that the entire operation stops and that?
No. Obviously, the entire operation.
I'm going to challenge you, brother. I'm going to challenge you. And this is supposed to, so
yeah.
Okay. So what would be a fair solution, an equitable solution where stuff continues to a certain extent, but the exploitation is mitigated?
All right. First of all, the means of production shouldn't be in the hands of imperialists.
Okay.
Means of production and all the resources should be there for the people, meaning the African people or the natives of that land.
Okay.
Right? They should be the ones who are in control of the resources and decide however it is that they want to use it. Whether it is to nationalize the economy for the benefit of the nation itself, or to open the economy where it is benefiting all of Africa, all of the continent.
So Zimbabwe or like a United African.
And also the trade that goes on is strictly under the control of African people.
Okay.
Meaning that prices are dictated to us from Western powers. We choose our own prices and choose at what price we want to sell it to you at.
Okay. So, let me ask you this then. What defines our inability to control these mechanisms? And another way I could put this is, what's the difference between a slave and a master? How does one distinguish between those who have the ability to execute and those who have no other resource but to do those things?
All right. So it is not something that you can just look at right now.
Sure.
Meaning you can't just say, hey, since 2000 such and such and such. This is a constant phenomenon since slavery.
Right.
So even though we've been granted political independence, there can be no political independence in its truest sense unless there's economic independence, because you aren't in control of your own resources.
Okay.
If you understand what I mean by
I understand what you're saying.
So for me, when the imperialists and the neo-colonial powers let go of Africa, which they won't, so it would have to be an active struggle against them, which is the constant thing throughout our history, where we're struggling against outside forces trying to take over our own homeland. Is after we extradite them or we remove them from our homeland, is that we put in place, well, for me, put in place, because I'm a follower of Nkrumah and Toure, so put in place a system that is for the common man. I'm not talking about you need. First of all, Africa has the resources and the people to be a first world nation on its own. So we don't need anything from anywhere else, right? Need. We might want other things.
Right, but the resources are available.
Yeah, but the resources are readily available. Right. All we probably need is more educated people from the West who are Africans, even though they identify as Jamaican or American,
right,
come to Africa to develop the resources, right? And even in Africa, there are people who are capable of doing that.
Okay.
So you need to take out the imperialist and neo-colonialist forces from Africa, first and foremost. Then you need to go on a political re-education campaign where you decolonize the mind of the people who have been in these systems for hundreds of years.
So you give a voluminous answer, short, specific, right? What does the colonization of minds create within folks that needs to be fixed or addressed in order to make the system function appropriately, as you see it?
Well, firstly, you said specifically. So, when you are poor and downtrodden, all of your life you were thinking about just survival. You weren't thinking about sustainability.
Okay.
So all your decisions are just to get to the next day. So even if you were to make another decision that will satisfy your need long term, you are unable to see it.
Okay.
Because of the current condition that you're living in.
Okay.
So once the mines are extradited or the colonizers are extradited and the miners themselves or the Africans who are the rightful owners of the land take up the land for themselves and begin to develop it, then you will see on its own the whole mindset is changing, because your reality is changing also at the same time. So your decision and your psychological mindset coincides with your material conditions. So if you are getting paid fairly and you're making enough money to sustain a family, you can then think about, investment or any other sort of thing. No.
Okay. So I guess the idea that I was floating with, and this may give you some direction, is post-slavery in America, we go through this process. And I don't know, how many people know this kind of history, but once the Emancipation Proclamation is enacted and folks actually hear that they are free, that they should be released and the slave masters let them go, they are unable to operate outside of the structure of a plantation, right? And so this creates large swaths of freed slaves who really don't go anywhere, who often stay very near the plantation where they were used to, even though they're not indentured any longer and their services aren't being used. They're being rejected because of technology and a whole host of other things, especially in the case of like cotton, right? So what winds up happening is this idea about agriculture and mechanics, right? Booker T. Washington starts the A&M University, and then through the A&M University, folks start to learn how to conduct their own businesses. Is that what you're describing? Is that idea that folks are going to need some sort of retraining, or like how does that decolonization work?
When I say re-education, I mean a complete overhaul of the mindset that we've been indoctrinated.
Okay.
Coming from you were a little child up until probably most people reach their age of consciousness probably 20, where they start to realize that hey, something isn't right, and they start to actively try to deviate from what they've been taught from they were younger.
Yeah.
Meaning the whole slave master mindset where you are brought to serve people because somehow you are thought to be less smart or inferior or anything like that.
Okay.
So what Booker T did was he, as well as Marcus and others, they gave black people the basis to start their political ideological transformation.
Okay.
And the same thing, and you can see that their legacy is consistent because
that's true.
With Marcus and Booker T, you then had Malcolm and the Nation of Islam.
But they were literally creators of each other. Literally.
And then after the Nation of Islam, the Civil Rights Movement and Malcolm, you then had the Black Panther Party.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's not until my generation that you've seen these sort of stuff kind of die down because of the pacification and of our political ideology.
Okay.
Where we believe that this is the end and this is all that we can be and this is where we should be.
Okay, but before we get to your generation, we still got about 60 years. So let's walk there. Let's walk through the 60 years real quick. Okay, so Booker T says, look, we need A&M University. And if my memory may be foggier than yours, you're fresh on this stuff. So to correct me if I'm wrong here. So Booker T does the A&M stuff. Marcus comes behind Booker T and writes a bunch of letters to to Booker T and says, look, I really like your work. I would like to come and study underneath you. And Marcus brings forward this idea of the UNIA and collective work, all right, which is effectively a very lax A&M structure, right? You can empower yourself. You just don't need the school, right? You can, if you want to go to South, you go get to school. You can do that, right? And things are kind of humming along. And then we get to this place where we're fighting. Well, at least white folks are fighting. Western powers are fighting, right? And we have World War I.
And World War II,
And then World War II. Okay. So at that point, describe to me in brief terms what America looks like in terms of the family structure, in terms of business structure, because we aren't accepted at that point, right? So kind of talk to me about what post-World War II looks like for the American and for the Caribbean, because it's largely the same position.
All right, so post-World War II was a relatively good time for the American empire, where they were left basically untouched after the World War based on the geographical location.
Okay.
Right? And after World War II is probably when the US really expanded its industrial core, because they were a highly productive empire, still are. As capitalism is a highly productive
structure, right?
Right? But when the US realized that they were not a military power, which was what happened during the Pearl Harbor invasion by the Japanese, they were I think 17 in the military global powers in the world at that time.
Okay.
And ever since that time, they have bolstered their military power to the point where they have blown all other countries out of the water in regards to their military prowess and technological advancement.
Right.
Even though China and Russia are now combating them on the technological aspect, right? But post World War II, people wanted stuff. People needed products apart from what was being produced for the war.
Right.
And that is what helped bring America out of what they had in 1929, which was the Great Depression.
Okay.
Right? As well as compromises by FDR with communists and socialists.
Right.
Following those years, however, there was a kind of a steep decline until you got in some Reaganomics, which, if you're a capitalist, was a very good time for you.
Right. So pin that. Okay. So you brought us to like 1940, and then you skipped to like 82. Let's walk through 40, 50, right? All right. So
right.
Let me and specifically as it pertains to Title IX, the GI Bill, and what happens with the phenomenon called redlining, right? How does that work for folks in America?
Oh yeah, perfect. So what most people don't know is that the Southern economy was what sustained the Northern economy.
Okay.
So people think of the North as less racist when really nicer in the sense that they were going to tell you to get out of here. Redlining is the Jim Crow of the North, right? The Southern region would just say, hey, yo, fuck off all black people, everybody get out of here.
That's right.
They would implement systematic things that would bar you from getting a house, anything at all.
Right.
So they were more subtle with their racism, while the Southern people were more outright with it. So basically, conservatives and liberals, as Malcolm X talks about, one is a fox and one is a wolf.
Ain't nothing changed, but keep going.
So during that time is when you had the uprisings of
okay.
the civil rights movement starts, where black people were tired of the conditions that they were being given,
okay.
even after serving the country of their birth that they love. I don't really get it, but unfortunately, we believed, or African Americans believed that through integration or assimilation into the empire that was founded on genocide and is inherently anti-black and will forever be that way. There is no
foundation.
Right. Yeah, it was built that way, and right. the foundation for it are still there. The Constitution literally tells you that all the time. Just look back at it. but during that time, you had black people who were coming up and who were conscious of what happened during World War II, and even the preceding years through Reconstruction and others with WWII Du Bois and Martin Delany and others the students of those thinkers who were growing up in the 60s and 50s and the 70s or early 70s. So you had people like Malcolm and Martin Luther King and the Nation of Islam, and you had other rights leaders outside of the US. So you had like Giovanni Pinto, who was in Ghana, in Nkrumah. Africa was going through their independence period and their liberation struggle. The Caribbean or the Afro-Caribbean was going through their liberation struggle as well. You have the independence movement from where I am in 1962. You have the revolutions all across Latin America during that time as well. Africa the same, Asia the same, Vietnam, Singapore, all of those places had their. So it was a global time for liberation.
Kind of like now.
America was the center.
Kind of like now.
Meaning that,
Kind of like now.
Yeah. So at that time, America was the center because they were the face of equality and unity and freedom, which is all garbage. But they were the face of that.
Yeah.
And Malcolm and others wanted to shed light on the politics that they were giving the world. That, hey, we are free and we love all people, we respect all people, blah, blah, blah. So, Malcolm, for me, which is my hero, Malcolm is the person who got me on this kind of track that I'm on. Malcolm, the first person.
Okay. Well, this is dramatic. You see what I'm doing, so you know this is definitely a deviation because Malcolm did it for me too, and he's been near and dear to my heart. So, is there a particular chapter of a particular book that does it for you about Malcolm?
I wouldn't say chapter. Well, I have two of his books right here, but I wouldn't say chapter. I heard a speech.
Okay.
His message to the grassroots speech, and his ballot for the bullet speech, or the bullet speech, and his speech on the Black Revolution. Those speeches are what got my heart. I was like, yo, no, like he's speaking, and because at the time I am more of a militant kind of person. I don't believe in the whole non-violence.
Right.
And even though MLK's legacy is highly propagandized because they give you a soft version of it.
Yeah, pacified.
Really was.
That's a fact.
But Malcolm fit my personality more, right? Because, I don't know, like, his story is basically the story or a light or a beacon for anyone who is on a political journey. Because Malcolm came from a street thug.
Yeah.
A street thug.
Yeah. But even before that, he got me with chapter 2 in his autobiography when he talks about his brother Filbert. Yeah. So the chapter about the brother Filbert going hungry and him learning the best lesson of his life. Do you know that one? You remember the lesson that he would remember for the rest of his life?
Yeah.
All right, that if you be quiet, you go hungry?
Yep.
I love that one. All right.
And
yeah, go ahead.
And he realized that the impact that his father also had on him.
Absolutely.
His father was a WWII.
Yes, he was.
It's not that these stuff were foreign to him.
Right.
He always knew it.
Right. That's what got his father killed.
Yep.
Yeah.
By the racist mob that ran him over.
Yeah. Train track. Put him on the train tracks. Yeah. I'm familiar. Okay. So why is the family? This is a perfect segue. I told you we keep on walking into these points. So why is the family a critical factor in nation building?
The family is the nation.
Okay. Talk to me.
Familyhood is the nation. So people's relations to people outside of their family is contingent on who they or the love that they show within the family.
Okay.
And the family itself, we are speaking of the biological relation, meaning mother, father, sister, blood relation.
Okay.
So how you relate to those people is how you relate to people who are not necessarily your blood. Right? And if the family is in utter destruction, then you can't expect the nation to be strong or rigid or independent. And you can find the family structure at the core of any great civilization ever on earth. Okay. If you look in Eastern philosophy with Confucius, you will see that he focuses on developing the relationship with the family. If you look at African philosophy, there is a book by Theophilo Benga where he speaks on this, where he says that the family itself in Africa was the backbone of all the things that would come out of Africa. Right. Motherhood primarily was she was probably a mother, had immense power within the community. Okay. And it wasn't power in the sense that she was trying to dominate her male partner. Yeah. Yeah. It was more of working together and recognizing that, hey, motherhood is this, fatherhood is that. Okay. Right? And we work together to create a better nation. Okay. And we have lost that. No. It's hyper individualistic. We believe that, oh, this is me and that's all that I am and I must do whatever I want and whatever.
Beautiful. We walk into another point, right? So I have this in all capital letters. What have you found are strong common barriers for the working class to run a business, right? Family leads to a whole host of things. The nation is the family, business and the economy is also the nation. So, what are common barriers for folks in the working class?
Common barriers that I see. For me, the working class in the 21st century is the most productive that there has ever been. Meaning, in their productive capacity, we produce more than all other generations, but we are getting paid the same, even in an economy where inflation is rampant. So the purchasing power, that we have currently is completely different from
So now I'm gonna challenge you.
Yeah.
All right. So you just said that the nation is the family. We walked our way into this rationale, right?
Mm-hmm.
The nation is the family. Yeah. The idea is contingent on solidarity, right? If one has the understanding of a structure and roles and solidarity, then it makes division very difficult, right? But then the subsequent question kind of furthers that point, and the obvious answer would then be something relative to what the family produces, right? Which is not wages, right? That's outside of the family, right? And so the value that the family produces, if it's ordered and structured, as far as I see it and I've researched, is time, which is equivalent to money if you're dealing with a wage structure, but tantamount to much more if you're dealing with a capitalist structure, because time equals opportunity, which can exponentially multiply your earning capacity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So let's work with the idea of, does the family provide the time necessary for capital resourcing to work? Because here's the thing. If we go to a wage argument, right, and we say, look, we don't have enough wages, then it negates the natural resources that we already have. And the natural, in terms of our personal capacity, and in turn, our physical geography, or that which we walk on, and that is ours, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so walk with me down that path. Wages are cool, but doesn't it make more sense to have some time to invest in education and be smart like you, and then learn how to kind of do stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. So for me, I personally invested in myself.
Hi.
I invested in myself.
All right, talk to me.
I recognize what it was. Well, first of all, education was all, and this tied back to family.
Okay.
Education was always something that was pushed heavily in my family.
Love it.
I was
knew
always
that.
good at sports. I was always good at sports. I was always good at physical activities, because I am actually 6'2".
Right.
And I play football and I did track as well and other sports.
Okay.
But my parents always told me, if you can break a knee, and that's it.
All right, go read a book.
You need to. And initially, funny enough, I hated reading.
Me too.
But the thing is, even though I hated reading, I found other ways to educate myself. So I'd watch documentaries, I'd read articles.
Educate the people. Yes.
Yeah. So, and because my family as well is the type of family where you shouldn't be anywhere and someone is talking to you,
and you don't know,
what they're talking about.
Right, you don't.
Right, so we constantly be edit and we'll have debates even up to now.
Okay. Stop for a second. So we did this already, and I got a chance to know you, and I think to myself, I reason to myself, it should be a familiar term to you.
A lot.
Right. And I thought to myself, I'm pretty sure him and his father's having a good, because look, that's not going to leave you, bro. Right? Those reasoning sessions that you have at your pops are probably going to be some of the best the resonant reasoning sessions that you'll ever have, right? And just word to the wise, just be mindful about that. But to the point, how does resourcing ourselves and using that knowledge to identify plans, goals, objectives, right? That will allow us to make incremental steps towards whatever it is that we choose. How does that work within the scope of this discussion, right? Because we often get focused on the physical resources, ignoring the idea that the psychological and mental stuff, right, determines the value of all of the other physical stuff. So go ahead and let me know about that.
All right. So when I first started reading, I believe the first book I ever read was The 48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
And it was really my ex-girlfriend at the time who recommended her mom actually, who got me to read the book.
Okay.
And ever since I read that book, even though some of the stuff that are in the book, I personally don't morally accept.
Right.
There is a lot that is in the book that is useful for people.
Is that Robert Greene? Is that Robert Greene?
Yes.
I'm familiar.
Yes. And then after I read 48 Laws of Power, I read Robert Greene's Law of Human Nature.
Right. 33 Laws of Power is also excellent. You should try. Have you done that one?
Yeah.
We're on the same page, bro. Keep going, bro. Keep going.
Definitely. So, and initially, I was like, yo, I am not going to buy any books. But then I at least I have 60 books on my laptop alone.
Right.
And I have like 40 here now. Like, but I can't show you all of them.
All right, I got you.
Like,
I can hear it.
they're all here.
I can hear it.
So I started reading, and then basically, once you interact with certain information and you start looking on the world and you start applying it to situations that you've been involved in the past and that you want to go into,
Right.
you realize, whoa, hold on, something has to change. Meaning, all right, if I'm currently doing this and it's not working,
right.
obviously I need to be doing something else.
Or insanity.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the more you read, because reading for me is just interacting with my ancestors who have gone through what I've gone through and prescribe their own
Right. You're actively
Yeah.
you're placing yourself in that so you can get the value.
Yeah.
Good.
Exactly.
Good.
So when I see what they've been through and when I read what it is that they have to say, and I apply it to my modern paradigm, right? And try to implement some of it in my life, you will be so surprised as to how your life will change, like 360.
Yep.
Because I'm telling you, friends of mine now would have never known that I've been interested in this stuff. Yep. Literally, people are surprised every day that I actually wrote a book. I dropped off a book yesterday at a business place, and someone in the business place asked, "You wrote all of this?" I'm like, yeah. I wrote all of this.
I love that. Okay, so you're gonna create. Okay, I love that we're sharing this, right? Because I don't get it. So it sounds so arrogant, but you're already saying it, right? You'll be surprised and amazed by their surprise and amazing. It's one of the more delightful things, because I'm sure you're not walking around thinking that you're the greatest thing in the world.
When I tell you that, probably because I'm the type of person that you would look on, meaning face value, and think that I know all of this stuff. So whenever people who think they're smart try to argue with me, and then I answer, I love seeing their face. Because I'm like, yo, you really thought.
I listen to a lot of stupid music, and women don't like the stupid music that I listen to, but I like stupid ratchet music, right? I love Kodak Black, and he has this line. Yeah. He says, head full of dreads, head full of dreads and mouth full of gold teeth, but they think I'm illiterate. But when I go to talking, they're going to reconsider it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That type of thing. Okay, so I want to thank you so much for presenting that, but I also want to thank I Never Knew TV, because without them, I wouldn't have found you. So I want to shout out Junior on I Never Knew TV. He is the man for facilitating all of this, and maximum respect for that. It took some time to get everything coordinated, but again, another delightful interview. That's why I love my people, and the idea that we have ambition, right, brings forth the conversation we just had about the surprising responses to the work that we do, because honestly, if you didn't take an initiative, if you didn't humbly start to just pen down what you think are reasonable thoughts, right, there would be no compliment on the other side. So I just want to just pay my maximum respect to 9/11 TV, to you, because it takes courage to do that. Right? You have to start from nothing, and nothing. When you're starting, I'm stupid. I don't know nothing, right? And it's a process of affirmation. So,
there is a quote by Socrates, and he's one of my favorite philosophers, where he said, and it's probably one of my favorite quotes.
Right.
It says, "Wisest is he who knows nothing."
Absolutely, I say it all the
what
time.
What he means by that is when someone admits to themselves that, hey, I really don't know about this, so I'm going to search.
You open your hands
to find the answer.
Yes, bro.
So he's the wisest person alive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The dumbest person alive is the person who believes that they know everything.
Yes. But there's a logic to it. There's a logic. That's why I put my hands out. You know, there's another saying that goes hand in hand with that. And look, you cannot accept things with a closed fist. You must open your hand, right? And it's like, if you know everything, your fist is closed, right? In order to accept more information, you have to humble yourself and say, I don't know.
Definitely.
Right? Some people escape work with the rationale that any compliment, man, this is so perfect. Okay, so some people escape work with the rationale that any compliment is a measure of satisfactory workmanship. More must learn that when we get disappointed, we don't get mad, that we adopt the mentality of adaptation. And that, you know, that runs in line with the track that I kind of hope I steered you to. So we're heading away from resources that are physical and more mental resources and persistence and these things that really counteract mental slavery, right? Right? Okay, I know you're setting up, you're going to read something, so go ahead and do it.
No, because what you just said, I actually have in the book, in one of the chapters that I have.
Okay.
Hold on. No, it's not. All right. So, what you really just described is pride, meaning people's pride get in the way of them developing their intellect.
Yes.
Because when you talk to people and they find out that you know more than them, their ego says, "Hey, yo,
shut down,
bro."
Right?
So I have in the book, pride elevates self-esteem and acts as a balm to all previous attitudes. Generally, pride is seen as a good thing as it leads to self-preservation. However, I once heard my grandmother say, "Pride goeth before a fall."
Absolutely.
Pride is ultimately defensive and easily rendered impuissant because it is dependent on external conditions, without which it is quickly relegated to anger.
Absolutely.
The inflated ego that accompanies pride is always under attack. Pride remains weak in my analysis because it can be knocked off its pedestal back to shame, which is a threat that fires the fear of losing pride. Also, pride is highly divisive and gives rise to factionalism. Example, armies slaughter each other for what we deem to as nationalism. Another downside to this form of consciousness is arrogance and denial.
Absolutely.
These characteristics block growth. With this in place, recovery from addiction and other self-harms are impossible because the emotional problem is usually denied.
Absolutely. Look, okay, folks, if you haven't heard enough from this erudite young man, wise beyond his years, with Socrates' words, I'd like you to seriously consider going to Amazon and getting Tristan's book. Tristan, again, remind us what the title of the book is so it's easy for folks to find.
The Thoughts of an Unchained Mind by Tristan.
All right. So next up, we'll talk about some of the same topics in terms of just geopolitical understanding. But we want to infuse a lot of the positivity market solutions that have been devised over a long period of time that really work in line with some of the stuff that Tristan is prescribing, and that just makes sense, right? This is not just Tristan prescribing it. Tristan is echoing the ancestors, and he's naming them. He's citing them. He's letting you know that It is versed information that you can go back and research, you can go back and validate. And at the end of the day, we should practice, right? We need to understand ambition, but be humble, be moderate, right? Be encouraged, but at the same time, have balance. And that's the first step in terms of unchaining your mentality, right? I think I'm using that correctly. Am I doing that correctly?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So remember, folks, subscribe, select alert. You're on Instagram and you're here right now. Please subscribe. Also, remember, if you subscribe to our channel on YouTube and tell us what your aha moment from this show was, you have a chance to win a $75 Amazon card. All you have to do is click the link below and register your aha moment, and you'll have a chance to participate in the getting an Amazon card. Until the next time, I want to say thank you again to Tristan. No
problem.
Brother, we'll catch up after the show. But again, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, for you. You have a nice night.